Dear students, we are back to the class of geometric design. This is going to be our last interaction in this course. What we have discussed in the previous interaction was related to the pedestrian facilities in terms of the subways and the overbridges. During the course of discussion under the various modules, we said that there are few elements which we are going to discuss towards the end of this course, and they are these three: the kilometer stone, the access control, and the lateral and the vertical clearances. So, today we are going to discuss these three things one by one. So, let us start with the kilometer stone. Now, these kilometer stones, they are provided on the side of the road so as to define to the road user in terms of the vehicle driver or passenger that what is the distance of their destination at that particular location. Now, these stones can be of three types. One is the ordinary kilometer stone, which are being used on every NH, SH and MDR, or there is going to be a fifth kilometer stone which is bigger in size, and it is used again on these three types of road facilities. And then there are kilometer stones which are used on ODR or VR. So, when we talk about this ordinary kilometer stone, then what it tries to tell is the destination which is going to be there ahead, or the terminal destination which will be there, and along with that it gives you the distance of that destination. So, if you are moving on a highway and you are going to reach say Delhi, so it is going to tell you now you are reaching Meerut. Meerut is so many kilometers. When you cross Meerut, then it may say tell about the another destination, or it may also tell about the final destination at some location. And this information is usually given in Hindi or local language. When we talk about the fifth kilometer stone, which is bigger in size, it gives more information. So, what it gives is, along with the distances which are being given for those intermediate locations, it is also giving the name of the terminal or the starting station depending on which particular direction you are talking in that. So, you have now two destinations along with the distances being shown on that kilometer, and this is, as the name itself says, that this is going to be the fifth kilometer stone every time. Now, when we are looking at these stones and how they are going to be provided, what way we are going to put the information on that is what we are going to look and discuss further. It says that the local language is not Hindi, then alternate kilometer stone should have a script as Hindi and local. So, that is one thing which has to be added. International form of Indian numerals are to be used to show the distances. Stone numbers are also inscribed on each of the stone, and this is being placed on the side width of that stone. Now, on this stone we are going to place the name of the location, we are also going to place the distance of that particular location or the city at this point where the stone is being embedded, and as well as it is going to give the route number. So, these are the three things which are there, and accordingly the sizes are being fixed. If it is a name of the place, then this is 80 mm. If it is route number, then this is 100 mm. And if it is a kilometer being defined, that means the distance, then this is inscribed as 130 mm size. So, these are the way we are going to put them. Now, the background color is usually white, and the black letters and the numerals are going to be used on that, but the top, the size is semicircular. So, if we are looking at it, so it is this way. So, here this is white with whatever is written here, then that is black. But when we look this semicircular location, then it has a color. So, it is canary yellow for NH, brilliant green for SH and white for MDR, and on that whatever is written is going to be written on black. So, it is black on canary yellow, white background is there, and then in the case of white is there on a green background. So, this is how we are going to place it. All of these stones are placed on the left hand side. So, this is of course every time it is there, you must have seen it also. Let us look at the fifth kilometer stone. What you can see is that there are two places which are being informed, and there are related distances which are again being informed here. So, if we talk about the place, then the place is going to be written as 80 mm, and the kilometer is being written as 130 mm size, and this gap is 50, 50, this is also 50. So, in between all of these are 50, and at the bottom it is 75 mm. So, when we take all of these summations, then this will come out to be 695 mm. Now, this semicircular section being provided at the top, which is colored. Now, the radius of this is 250 mm. So, that means if we are looking at this size, then this is 250 and 250, that means 500 mm is this one. And when we look at this projection here and this projection here, then this is 10 mm. So, that means this is 520 mm, and the height of this pedestal is 130 mm. So, if we consider all of these things, then what we are going to get is 1075 mm as the height of this 5th kilometer stone at the top of the ground level. Now, it is not being placed simply in this form at the ground level. What it's there is, it is being embedded inside. So, what you found is that there is a concrete block of cement concrete. This is having a 150 here and 150 here, and this is 250. So, this is 550 is the size, and then this is 660 mm is the height of this block. Now, this is the width. So, this width is 250 mm. This is the number of that stone. So, it is a 4th stone being placed. So, likewise all stones are going to be numbered similarly. So, here also the further details are being given. What you can see is that this is 520, this is 500 internally, and because the width is 250 and 10 mm is the offset. So, it comes out to be 270, and the depth is being defined here. So, it is say 500 mm depth, and again this is 550 in this width, and the size of this element is going similarly here and being embedded within the concrete block. So, it is going up to 450 mm. So, this is how it becomes a quite bulky device which is being placed, which cannot be taken away by anybody because the weight is quite high. Here we are looking at an ordinary stone. In the case of ordinary stone, what we have is say the name of one place and then the kilometer. So, this name is 80 mm, the kilometer is 130, in between the space is going to be 50 and 50 here and 75 at this side. So, this is going to be 385. So, it comes there, but here when you look at this radius of a semicircular section, then this one is 175 mm. So, obviously, in that case if we are looking at this size, then this comes out to be 350 mm with again 10 mm on offset on both the sides, it becomes 370, and the same way at the bottom which is being embedded, the things are being placed. Here you can see the different kilometer stones being shown with different colors at the top, and they have been embedded. In some cases they are embedded in a right form, in few cases they are not being embedded in the correct form. The whole of the pedestal has been taken inside. Okay, so, the designs are not uniform as such maybe, but the concept is that this is how they are going to be provided. Now, the another thing which we can talk about is the access control. Now, access control is quite important for the high speed facilities, the highways which are there, 2-lane highways, or we are talking about 4-lane or a 6-lane divided facilities, expressways. So, access control need to be ensured there. Similarly, in the case of urban roads, if you are looking at arterials, so they have access control system. So, we have to look at this access control at specific locations or for some specific type of facilities depending on that what are the requirements. Now, when we look at these requirements, they can be any. They can be like we have to maintain the functionality of the road, as I said it is arterial or it is a multi-lane highway on which the traffic may move at a speed of say 100 kilometers per hour, or we have to look at the conflicts or the conflict areas which needs to be minimized. So, if the locations from where the vehicles can merge into this high speed system or highway facility, if that is being minimized, then obviously we are minimizing those locations where the conflicts are going to arise. And as there are not many locations from where the merging or divergings are happening, so the deaccelerations which are otherwise required if multiple accesses are being provided, they will reduce, and therefore, the vehicles will be able to maintain the speeds at which they are moving, and that is where the level of service of this traffic stream is also going to be maintained. Then it eliminates the turning movements or the queues or the through lanes and reduces the interference from the roadside developments, which is more of a local nature and the local traffic is there. So, that sort of interference is also not going to be there. Now, when we look at the degree of access control, then what are the things which are going to be taken into consideration are very first thing, as we talked about the functionality of the road, is the level of service which needs to be provided on that highway. Another one is the crash frequency, what type of hazardous interaction has been there at that location or on that particular stretch, how many in numbers in terms of intensities, traffic patterns, whether there is a more of a through traffic rather than the turning traffics, then we should go for those. Vehicle operating cost, because if again and again there is a braking, clutch use and acceleration and deacceleration, then the cost of operating a vehicle is going to increase, and we should try to minimize these things. Travel time is of course related with the speed. If the speed can be maintained, the travel time can be reduced, but if it is not a case, then there is going to be a delay. The land uses on the roadside is there, and that induces a type of traffic, generates as well as attracts the traffic. But if we are providing a direct movement on the main highway, then this will hamper the functionality of the road. So, we have to see that how this can be controlled, and one thing which we discussed when we talked about the cross sectional elements was that in all of such cases where lot of land uses are there, activities are there all along the highway, we should go for a service road or a frontage road, and there will be few locations from where from the service road the traffic can get on the highway, or from the highway it can get to the side road. Then the convenience of access to abutting property owners is another thing that if that is to be ensured, but again we need to devise a mechanism by which it happens in a more smoother form. And legal considerations are other things, because if you try to put certain controls, then how you can sustain them is what we have to see. Now, when we say that we are looking at the degree of access control, then this degree can be either partial or full. And if you remember, when we talked about the definitions of arterial roads, subarterial roads, collector roads and the local streets, there also we used these type of words where we said that it is going to be a full access control or a partial access control. Now, when we are exercising this in actual, then in that case there are these elements through which this access control is being exercised. The very first one is the spacing of the intersections. Another one is the access to the property in the adjoining areas. Then the openings in the medians, at what level, at what distances they can be provided, and the grade separation across the streets and the railway lines. So, these are the four elements which we are going to talk further, but all of these four elements are going to looked at with respect to the type of road facility. That means, we are going to look at the rural highways, or we are going to talk about the urban roads. So, let us talk about the urban roads first. Now, in the case of urban roads, depending for the spacing of intersections, the minimum values have been defined for all the categories. And what it says is, in the case of expressways, this is 1000 meters, for arterials 500, for sub-arterials 300, for collector streets 150, and in the case of local streets the totally localized residential area and also so free accesses are going to be provided. Now, higher distances can be provided if the junctions are having linked traffic signals, because in that case the traffic will start moving at a higher speed. So, if you increase these distances, it is going to be more beneficial. Similarly, the progressive signal system, if they have been provided on expressways or arterials, then that is going to allow the traffic to move at a stable speed. So, that means there is not going to be much changes in terms of accelerations and deaccelerations, and if this is there, then this higher distances needs to be ensured. Then another thing is that in the case there is only left turn, then they can be placed at closer intervals also, because this left turn can be a free turn and it is not going to make a problem to the traffic which is moving on a main highway. But yes, when we have looked at these and when the traffic is quite high even on the main carriageway, then we discussed about the acceleration lanes and deceleration lanes. So, those needs to be taken care of. If needed, an additional turning lane can be provided. Then while taking the decisions, what are the things in such cases we are looking at? The geometric design, the traffic, the turning traffic, and the length of the turning lanes and the speed change lanes. So, all of these elements we have discussed when we talked about the intersection layouts. So, we are taking the things from there so as to take the justified decision. Now, the access to property, when we are looking and when we are talking about expressways or arterials, then obviously the most controls are going to be there in this case. What it says is that there should not be any direct access to residential areas. If there are major generators, then the restricted accesses can be provided. So, some limited locations are there from where it can be done. Right turn should not be permitted unless spacing between intersections is satisfied, as we have discussed previously under the head of spacing of intersections. So, this is a important thing which has to be taken care of. If it has to be provided, then we usually do it by way of a grade separated structure in terms of provision of ramps and then taking the traffic to say right by way of 270 degrees and so on. In the case of sub-arterials, the direct access to residential area is provided if there is no alternate access, and if that cannot be provided at a reasonable cost, then we can allow it. In the case of major traffic generators, this direct access can be allowed. For collector roads, for the abutting land, the direct access can be allowed, but then when we are doing it, we have to see that how the traffic is moving, what are the movement patterns, what is the composition of the traffic. Based on that, the safety has to be ensured. And then finally, for the local street, everything is going to be free, because that access is going to be there from each and every house or activity area. So, cannot be controlled in that manner. When we look at the median opening for the urban roads, what it says is that that should be as minimum as possible, and it can be provided with a protected right turning lane of sufficient length if it is being designed. Another thing is the grade separation, and this grade separation can be with respect to street and the railway line. Here two things we are going to talk. One is what is going to happen in the next 5 years, another one is what happens in the next 20 years. So, what it says is that we should start constructing something which segregates the things by estimating the traffic volume in the next 5 years, which is going to exceed the capacity of the intersection. And if this is going to happen in the next 20 years, at least we should start planning, and by the time we are near to that, we might have implemented the thing. In case of railway lines, we are not providing on the isolated sidings. So, no grade separation is going to be there, but of course, it is decided on the basis of the traffic volume and the economic considerations, and the decisions are taken accordingly. When we look at the rural roads, in the case of rural roads, the spacings shall not be less than 750 meters. Connection with the parallel service road shall not be less than 750 meters. That means, if there is a development here and a service road has been provided on this way, and this is a major carriageway, and this service road is being separated out by way of a median. So, we are providing these type of connectivities. So, the traffic which can come here or go this way. Now, if there is another one being provided like this, then this shall not be less than 750 meters. Now, if you are talking about the access to the private property, then what it says is the driveways, entrances to commercial establishments, industries, etc., they should not be spaced closer to 300 meter from each other. This means that if you have a different type of activities being provided along this road, and if we have provided an access here, and if we are providing this access here, then this distance which we are looking, this should not be less than 300 meters. So, it is better that if there are more things which are happening like this, then we provides a service road or a frontage road, and in that case this type of a system can be ensured. Then median openings, here the intersections are spaced far. The median openings for U-turns can be provided at a spacing of 2 kilometers. In case of expressways, it can be minimum 5 kilometers, and there can be openings which are there, but which are not being utilized as such, because they have been camouflaged by way of either railings or something, but if required under the emergencies, then they can be used for diverting the traffic. So, that provision shall also be there. When we look at the grade separation across streets, then it is in terms of the ADT of fast vehicles, and what it says is that on the crossroad of divided rural highways in the next 5 years it exceeds 5,000, then we should go for it. If it is going to be expected in the next 20 years, then we should start doing a planning for that. Then in the case of railway lines, it is a combination of ADT of fast vehicles and the number of trains per day, and the product of that in the next 5 years, if it is exceeding 50,000, then we are going to have a grade separation. So, when we talk about the previous one where we set 5,000 ADT of fast vehicles, now in that case maybe this comes out to be 10 trains per day. So, 10 trains with that 5,000 is going to have 50,000. If as soon as it exceeds that, we have to do it. But for bypasses, this value is being reduced to 25,000. So, this is regarding the access control. Now, let us come to the next element, which is lateral clearance needs to be provided. Now, when we say lateral clearance, what we are talking about is that we have a carriageway and there is a overhead structure being provided. So, this is say the pier of that. Now, what is this clearance which we are trying to ensure? So, this is a lateral clearance, and if this lateral clearance is being provided and these structures are far away, then whatever vehicles they are moving on this carriageway, they will keep moving with the same speeds. So, this flow is going to be quite smooth. So, this is what is the intention here when we talk about lateral clearances. Now, when we are looking at these lateral clearances, then it can be decided whether it is a single carriageway or it is a dual carriageway. That means, it is a divided multi-lane system or what. So, let us see that what happens here when we are again talking about the rural versus the urban roads. Now, in the case of rural roads for single carriageway, it is nothing but we are talking about basically the shoulder. So, when we say that in the case of national highway and state highway, 2.5 meters on either side if it is being provided. So, we have a carriageway here and then the shoulder. So, this is what we are saying is 2.5 meters, and after that the structure can be there, and under exceptional conditions it is less by 0.5 meters. For MDR ODR it becomes 2 and 1.5, for VR it becomes 1.5 and 1. That is how by 0.5 value this is going down. In case the footpaths are being provided here, because this particular highway is passing through a say habitation. So, this is the way it is going to be there. So, we have a footpath here and whatever is the width of the footpath. So, say usually not less than 1.5 meter we should have, we should provide 1.8 meters or 2 meters, and this is the carriageway. So, there is a clearance here. So, this is a lateral clearance and this is a lateral clearance. This lateral clearance is being provided as 1 meter. So, it is now 1.5 meters or whatever is the width of the footpath plus that 1 meter clearance. Now, if we have a divided system, then in the case of divided system what we are going to have? Say if we are talking about a carriageway like this and then there is a median and again a carriageway here, then what type of clearances we are trying to ensure. So, left hand side it remains same as we have discussed about the single carriageway. That means, if it can be like this or this way, depending on whether the footpath is provided or footpath is not being provided. But when we are looking at the right hand side, then in the case of right hand side for this traffic or for this traffic, there is a median being provided. Now, it may happen that there is a column on which the overhead structure is being supported. Now, we are looking at the clearances which needs to be there with respect to this column. So, what it says, if the curve is not provided, then it should be 2 meters desirably and 1 meters exceptional from the edge of pier or abutment. And if the curve is provided, then it is 1.5 meter desirably with 1 meter exceptional along with the side safety margin of 0.5 meters. So, it becomes 2 meters and 1.5 meters when we are looking at this distance. So, this is how it is going to be maintained. In the case of urban roads for a single carriageway, again it is a curved section versus a not curved section, we can see. So, the curved section with the footpath, the curb shyness of 0.25 meter is being used on the lower category of roads and 0.5 meter is being used on a higher category of roads. So, whatever curved section is there like this. So, this is a curb and then this is 0.25 or 0.5 meters and then we have the carriageway. Now, if footpath is not being provided, then this value, these are going to be increased as 0.5 meters and 1 meters in the case of lower category and high category of roads. For divided carriageways, again the conditions remains the same. For left hand side, whatever we have discussed for the single carriageway, that remains, that is valid as such. But when we are looking at the right side, then it shall be 1 meter on higher category of roads and 0.5 meters on lower category of roads, as we talked here, from the edge of pier or abutment or a median. So, what you can see here is that there is a structure being provided. This is a multi-lane system. Now, this is a median and there are piers here which are supporting the overhead structure. So, this is a wide system being provided, but if you look at in an urban area, then this is a narrower system being utilized here. So, that is a difference between these two systems being provided. At the side also, whatever this side is there we are providing, then the margins are there subjective. If we are providing the footpath, then the footpath put a clearance of that either in terms of a 1 meter, or if you are looking at an urban side, then we have a 0.25 meters or 0.5 meters additional spacing being provided on the side of it. Now, here this is a case where we are looking at that the medians are being provided, but then there may be a possibility that we have a carriageway like this and there is a median and a carriageway. So, this is carriageway 1, this is carriageway 2 and this one is a median. Now, there is a crossroad going here and therefore, this is going to pass through it. Now, if there is a pier for this overhead structure, this is going to lie on this median which is not wide enough. So, what is to be done is that this median has to be made wide and then this is how it will go, and similarly then here also it is going to be widened. So, this is what it says, that if the median is not wide enough to allow such clearances, then it should be either widened near the approaches to the underpass or a single span structure should be provided, omitting the need of pier or column in the center. So, once this is being done, then whatever are the clearances which are there, those clearances are going to be maintained with respect to this as well as with respect to the edge of the median. So, this is how system has to be taken up. But what is this transition which is done here? The rates of transition remains the same as we have discussed previously for the cross sectional elements, and this needs to be ensured for minimum 50 meters before this structure. So, the uniformity of the section should be ensured like this. Now, let us talk about the vertical clearances. In the case of vertical clearances, different type of users can be there, and for those it has been shown, say they can be pedestrians, there can be cyclists, there can be cattle, there can be the LCVs, that is light commercial vehicles, or they are going to be the full fledged vehicles as buses or trucks as such. So, when it is a normal situation where all buses, trucks, each and every vehicle is being allowed to pass, then it should be at least 5 meters, but desirably 5.5 meters height. But there are pedestrian subways or the cycle subways, then this can be 2.5 meter as a vertical clearance. Then the combined pedestrian and cycle subway also is 2.5 meters. Pedestrian and cattle subway, if it is there, then it is say this one. So, it is going to be 3 meters, but if there are bigger animals which are expected to cross here, say the camels are there or the elephants are there or so, then this has to be increased to 4.5 meters. And if we are talking about a light vehicular underpass, say cars are there or chota hathi and those type of small commercial vehicles are there, then it can be 3.5 meters. So, there are different values like 2.5 meters, 3 meters, 4.5 meters, 3.5 meters, 5 meters, 5.5 meters depending on who are the users. Now, width of these underpasses also needs to be looked at. If say it is for cycle or pedestrians, then minimum 2.5 meters. If it is a combined for cycle and pedestrians, then we have talked about 5 meters and 6.5 meters depending on the one way or two way traffic respectively. If it is cattle and pedestrians, then 5 meters for a 4-lane highway and 7 meters for a 6-lane highway and expressway, because these are passing through the agricultural fields etc., open area of the country. So, there is a requirement of providing that way. If it is a light vehicular underpass, then 10.5 meters. So, this 10.5 meters includes footpath of 1.5 meters on either side, that means 3 meters goes to that. So, you are left with 7.5 meters. So, 7 meter 2-lane carriageway with 0.25 shy on this side and the other side is being provided. For a multi-lane highways and expressways, minimum is 12 meters. Again, 2-lane system of 7 meters are going to be there along with the shoulders on the two sides which are 2.5 meters wide, and that brings it to 12 meters. Now, what is the criteria of providing these underpasses? It says that vehicular underpass or overpass is justified if the average daily vehicular traffic on crossroad is 15,000 PCUs. Underpass shall also be provided on other category of roads if they are carrying average daily vehicular traffic more than 5,000 PCUs. If pedestrians or cattle underpass are there, but then they should not be provided if there are vehicular underpasses are there within a distance of 2 kilometers. So, they should not be spaced less than this. But in case there are schools, hospitals or these type of activities where the pedestrians are going to be there, lot many of numbers are there, then these type of underpasses they should be provided within 200 meters. Now, vehicle underpass shall be located, so vehicle is not required to travel more than 2 kilometer on connecting roads. Say if we have a highway like this and there is a road which is coming and we are saying that we are not providing the underpass here. So, this vehicle has to go here and then there is an underpass at this point and the vehicle comes back and goes in this direction. So, whatever is this distance we are looking at, then this should not be more than 2 kilometers. This is another criteria. So, with this we come to the end of our course on geometric design. We have discussed 5 modules and different aspects have been considered during these type of discussions, and I hope that whatever discussion we have done, it has been useful to you and you will be able to implement that knowledge which you have gained in practical conditions. So, I give best wishes to you for your future endeavors. Thank you and bye.